Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradari. Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradari. Yashoda Nandana Prasajana Ranjana. Yashoda Nandana Prasajana Ranjana. Yamunatira Vanachari. Yamunatira Vanachari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Continuing reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 2, Chapter 8, Questions by King Parikshit, text number 22. 22. Okay. Yo Vanushainam Sarga Pashantasya cha sambhavaha Atmano bandha moksha cha Vyavasthanam sarupata. Yo Vanushainam Sarga Pashantasya cha sambhavaha Atmano bandha moksha cha Vyavasthanam sarupata. Yo Vanushainam Sarga Ashandasya cha sambhavaha Atmano bandha moksha cha Vyavasthanam sarupata.
Shainam Saga Ashandasya cha Sambhavaha Atmano Bandham Shaucha Yavastanam Swarupataha.
Ashandasya cha sambhavaha Atmano bandhamoksho cha Vyavasthanam swarupataha. Yovanushayinam sargaha
Sarga
Asandasya cha sambhavaha
Ashrandasya cha sambhavaha
Atmano bandha moksho cha
Atmanobandha moksha cha
Yavastanam svarupataha
Vyavasthanam sarupataha
Yo Vanushayanam Sarga
Yovanushainam sarga
Pashandasya cha Sambhavaha
Ashrandasya cha sambhavaha
Atmano Bandham Shocha
Atmanobandha moksha cha
Vyavastanam Swarupataha
Vyavasthanam sarupataha
Yovanushainam sarga pashandasya cha sambhavaha atmanobandhamoksho cha yavastanam swarupataha.
Yovanushainam Sarga Pasandasya cha Sambhavaha Atmano Bandha Moksho cha Vavashtaham Swarupataha.
Word for word translation. Yeah, all those. Ba, either. Anushainam, merged into the body of the Lord. Sarga, creation. Pashandasya, of the infidels. Cha, and. Sambhava, appearance. Atmana, of the living beings. Bandha, condition. Moksha, being liberated. Cha, also. Yavasthanam, being situated. Sarupata, in an unconditioned state. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada, Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Please also explain how merged in the body of the Lord living beings are created and how the infidels appear in the world. Also, please explain how the unconditioned living entities exist. Purport. The progressive devotee of the Lord must inquire from the bona fide spiritual master how living entities merged in the body of the Lord again come back at the time of creation. There are two kinds of living entities. There are the ever liberated, unconditioned living beings, as well as the ever conditioned living beings. Of the ever conditioned living beings, there are two divisions. They are the faithful and the infidels. Of the faithful, there are again two divisions, namely the devotees and the mental speculators. The mental speculators desire to merge into the existence of the Lord, or to become one with the Lord, whereas the devotees of the Lord desire to keep separate identities and constantly engage in the service of the Lord. The devotees who are not fully purified, as well as the empiric philosophers, become conditioned again during the next creation for further purification. Such conditioned souls become liberated by further progress of devotional service to the Lord. Maharaj Parikshit asked all these questions from the bona fide spiritual master in order to become fully equipped in the science of God. Translation. Please also explain how merged in the body of the Lord living beings are created and how the infidels appear in the world. Also, please explain how the unconditioned living entities exist. Maharaj, would you please like to make some comments?
Yes. If the living entities have free will, then the question might come up, why would some of them be ever liberated and others not be ever liberated. And because if that were the case, that some were designed that way, then I might think that it's not fair. It doesn't seem like an equal opportunity is given to everyone. So the living entities, in order that they all have an equal chance to be free from material suffering, then they should be able to all choose whether they want to stay on the material platform or they want to go into the spiritual platform. And they do. That choice is given. The living entities who are eternally liberated, it's not that they're designed differently than the other living entities. All the living entities are given the opportunity. And this means that everyone is actually given the opportunity to serve the Lord eternally in the spiritual world. And everyone's originally liberated. Every soul is originally liberated. They're eternally engaged in serving the Lord. But somehow or other, some of those souls misuse their freedom. And they misbehave, and they want to indulge in sinful activities. They are the ones who come to the material world. They're the ones that are off the mark. The other souls that stayed have eternally been serving the Lord. The other liberated souls. They don't want to come to the material world. They have no interest in it. They're not coming. Like good citizens. Everyone is born a good citizen or a criminal? Good citizen. So from your beginning, of course, there's no beginning of the soul, but for the analogy, for our beginning in this platform of the material earth, if I'm born in a certain country on the earth, then I'm given a chance to be a free soul. I don't have to ever do anything criminal. I have no bounds. No one can force me to do anything criminal. The same thing, the living entities are eternally. Otherwise, what does it mean? Nityo Nityanam, Chaitanya Chaitanam. The living entities are eternal, and Krishna is eternal. The living entities are meant to serve Krishna eternally. Satchidananda. This is their name. Shiva Swarup Hoy, Nityara Krishna Das. Eternally the servants of Krishna. But then that's his constitutional position. But if he doesn't keep that constitutional position, he changes. Somehow or other he gets attracted by the concept of being the enjoyer, being the Lord, rebelling against the authority. Then he comes to the material world. Otherwise, he has no business here. Why should someone come to the material world? A horrible place. Why should someone go to the prison? A horrible place to stay. If you hear about things they do in prison, it's horrible. So I think that's an important point, that the souls are not some born or some created, although these two words don't really apply, living entities, because they're never born, they're never created, but they are eternally liberated. But if they misuse their free will, then they become Nityabhata. And that Nityabhata doesn't mean forever. It means they can be conditioned forever, bound up, or they can go back to the spiritual world. They always have that choice. And even the eternally liberated souls have the choice. If they want, they can come to the material world.
It's interesting. Prabhupada says, of the ever-conditioned living beings, there are the faithful and the infidels. And then of the faithful, there are again two divisions, namely the devotees and the mental speculators. So, Prabhupada's using the word mental speculator, but it seems like you could almost interchange that with a, impersonalist, Mayavadi. Somebody who's trying to become one with the Lord, which Prabhupada later says. So, from what I've heard is that using your own intelligence, your own faculties within this material world, you can come to the realization of impersonal Brahman. But to go beyond that is very difficult, if not impossible. You require the mercy of the Lord himself, which is coming from the Lord's devotees. So then, that brings it back to these distinctions that Prabhupada's making, the faithful and the infidels, and beyond them, the Nityabhata, the eternally conditioned, and the Nityasiddha, the eternally liberated souls. So when we take in context of Lord Krishna being the supreme controller, everything happens by his own sweet will. Everything, nothing, not even a blade of grass is moving without that. So he's speaking the Bhagavad Gita for a specific reason. He's enacting all these specific pastimes for reasons to attract the conditioned souls back to him. And then he sends specially empowered representatives such as our Srila Prabhupada and all the other acharyas in our lineage to reclaim the fallen souls. Some of our acharyas have actually revealed through their bhajans, through their meditations, through their writings, what their real identity is, their swarup in the spiritual world. Some have not revealed that, but that does not mean that they're not totally in touch and aware of that. One who's acting as an acharya, internally, he has this rasa, this relationship with Lord Krishna, but externally, he may keep it covered just to act in a certain way, just to teach others by their example. So we follow in the footsteps of the acharyas that are teaching us this process. Otherwise, we're just going to be a mental speculator. Agitating the mind to think one way or the other, trying to mitigate our problems and distresses. It's too much. It's too much. You can never solve everything in the material world. You can never solve everything. Some people have a lot of problems with the mind, with the body, with health, with, whatever it may be. And we try to go through so many measures to mitigate these problems. And, some seem like they can help, but ultimately from a higher scope, these things are fruitless because we can never untie the knot that we're entangled in this material world. And this knot is described in the beginning of the Bhagavatam. When Sutta Goswami is addressing these sages in Naimisharanya, he's talking about how this granthi, this knot, knot of the heart is entangled, and how it can be untied and untangled and cut to pieces, actually. And it takes devotional service to Lord Vasudeva. But how do we get the devotional service? We have to hear, we have to apply our to our life what we hear according to our realization. We have to serve those that we hear from, and by serving those that we hear from that are bona fide acharyas and following in their footsteps, then we develop more faith. When we develop more faith, we become fixed up in the process of devotional service. When we become fixed up in the process of devotional service, then the lower modes of material nature stop acting. And when the lower modes of material nature stop acting, we can be fixed up in the Shuddha-sattva, this transcendental state, so we can actually hear and realize what we're doing, what's going on. You know, every day we're given the greatest opportunity in the world to render devotional service, but we might not be aware of that. So we might even, you know, at one point you hear about the transcendental powers of prasadam, you hear about the Maha Mantra, hear about all these things, but it's very easy to become accustomed to it, to become familiar with it. And there's the saying, familiarity breeds content. So it's like, same thing with the deities, you know, you can hold the deities or even the spiritual master in such like a high position, you know, with respect, but because you're spending so much time closely around them, it's very easy to lose sight of that and, you know, see things from our limited, contaminated consciousness, which is impure. So it's always important to hear from those who have more of a refined consciousness, so we can continue to develop our consciousness more and more and realize our faults, our blemishes. It's very hard to see on our own all of our faults, you know. This is the nature of the false ego. It prevents us from seeing this, because the false ego says that you are great, you are God, you are everything. If I'm given a service, I know the best way how to do it. Nobody else knows better than me. I'm the acharya. You know, this is the false ego. We don't know what's best. Everything that we're even doing is something that's been spoon-fed to us, but we get a little bit old enough so we're able to take the spoon for ourselves, and we think, you know, we're the creator of the food itself. You know, so everything's coming from Krishna's hand, and it's all his mercy. And the more that we are humbled to that mercy, you know, the more free-flowing that mercy will be. But the more we have pride, then the more it will be blocked. And, you know, we can see this with Lord Krishna's pastimes, especially, you know, coming up this in a few days, there's Govardhan Puja. You know, Lord Indra is very puffed up, very prideful. So Krishna snatched away his pride. Very beautiful pastime, which we'll talk more about on Sunday, at least, if not more days. Monday is the actual Govardhan Puja. But yeah, this pride, this is an inhibitor to Krishna's mercy, because we think we're the doer, we're the controller. We accept this false ego. So I think I'm a male, I think I'm Krishna, I am the enjoyer, or I think I'm a female, I'm Srimati Radharani. I'm the enjoyer, and I'm the supreme one to be enjoyed. Everyone look at me. But no, Krishna is the supreme controller. And everything that we're doing is supposed to guide us in that direction. You know, so the supreme injunction of all the scriptures is that everything that we should do should help us remember and never forget this fact, the Krishna being the supreme controller, the Krishna being the Lord, to help us develop attraction to Krishna. And the more we can become attracted to Krishna, then very rapidly our desires and lust, anger, greed, and all these things fall away. And it's really not so hard to tell. Krishna consciousness is the greatest science experiment. You know, in science, there's a hypothesis. if and then statement. If I do this, then this will happen. So if I get attracted to Krishna, then all my problems in material life will go away. And we can try. I mean, we can try that experiment. We have to try over and over and over and over again. Sometimes it's easy and you get into a flow, but because of pride or because of, redundancy or because of arrogance or, other things that may arise that we might not be aware of in the moment, that can, little seeds or weeds rather that develop with our bhakti lata bij can develop. And then Krishna, being merciful, will help us see that these things are there, and break us down so we can be humble. This purification process, sometimes it's pleasant, it's nice. Sometimes it's really tough, you're put through the ringer and really see what you hold on to and what you take shelter of in life. At the time of death, we're to remember Krishna. Krishna, he says himself that, one who remembers him at the time of death surely comes to him. And I think this is a good point to meditate on often. When we're talking or we're chanting japa or we have thoughts going on and we're reading, we may be trying to read and focus, but then thoughts of all sorts of things come up. And you can stop and say, hold on, will this thought help me at the time of death? Is it essential? Is it necessary? No. Okay, let me put it on the side and let me focus on what I'm actually doing, which will help me at the time of death. So everything should be in that line, is a preparation to help us achieve life's ultimate goal. This life is filled with suffering. It's inescapable. It's miserable. Actually, it's horrible. And we can try to see the good in life, which there is some good. It's undeniable. But at the same time, the suffering is going to engulf all of that goodness, especially in this age of Kali. There's no reason at all to be attached to anything in this material world. Like Maharaj was talking about somebody who, are they born a good citizen or a bad citizen? Like you're born and you're just born, you don't really have all these things with you. Like we're born and we don't carry anything with us. We come out the womb and we're crying and, but then we become attached to so much and we don't even have a choice of what we're attached to. You're raised in a certain area, a certain place, to think a certain way, then because of the environment you're in, you behave a certain way, and that's how you relate with the world. And then this is our identity. But this is not our identity. This is all just the false ego. So our karma is dictating this. So the sooner that we can accept that I'm just a servant of a servant of a servant of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, then the more life will be supremely blissful and purposeful. But we may hold on to so many subtle things. Even the performance of devotional service can create anarthas. Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, he describes this in his Madhurya Kadambini, that you may become a devotee and you get certain name and fame. Oh, that devotee, he's really nice at kirtan. He's really sincere. He's really humble. He's really devotional. Oh, he's really good at distributing books. These things can get us puffed up, and if we're not diligent in cultivating this mood of humility and surrendering to our superiors, then it's all too easy for these things to affect us, and then we become puffed up. We need Krishna to lift Govardhan Hill for us and have us throw a rage, a fit to bring us back down. No, but that doesn't happen to us. Joke. So we should pray to Krishna to humble us. We should practice this humility and give up our mental speculation. You know, the more that we just accept the Shastra, and not just accept the Shastra blindly, but we follow in the footsteps here of Maharaj Parikshit, of inquiring submissively to his spiritual master, and not just inquiring about things that we think we're supposed to inquire about, but really go through your mind and inquire, you know, what you need to yourself so you can fully accept this. Because we may chant with our lips, but are we chanting with our heart? You know, we may dress like a devotee, wearing a dhoti or a sari, you know, wearing tilak, but is our heart really dressed like a Vaishnava, you know, with the sincerity and humility? It's very easy to, you know, when you first come in, you have to learn the Maha Mantra and you have to look at it on a piece of paper, and sometimes you jumble up the names, the words, you don't really have it, you know. Hari Rama, Rama Rama, Hari, you throw in extra Ramas. But then once you get it, it becomes easy. And it's very easy to do this on autopilot, and not just chanting, but everything that we do. You're given a new service. It's exciting, it's new, it's fresh, but then you have to carry on and you have to be focused. You have to be determined and develop this internal mood of being a devotee, actually accepting what we're doing, what life is about. Otherwise, it's very easy to accept it to some extent, but then you carry on for some days, weeks, months, years even, and you know, you get to a point and you're just like, what am I even doing? How did I end up here? I'm not even like satisfied. Like, what's really going on? You know, you have some lingering doubts that have not been addressed, lingering desires. You know, it's easy to have a mindset where we think, oh, I'm too fallen for this Krishna consciousness. I'm too fallen. It works, but I'm too fallen. You know, I have faith in the Maha Mantra. I have faith in the process, but I don't have faith in myself. But this is not having faith in the process. Because if you have faith in the process, then by chanting, you'll become free from all these impurities and you'll develop transcendental realization. So the point is that we should prod through our consciousness and be, you know, hyper vigilant of where we're averse, of, you know, what hang-ups we have. And if they're big hang-ups, you know, we don't dwell on them, but you acknowledge them. You become aware of what junk is in the heart, and, you know, sincerely approach Krishna and chant his names in a humble mood. And if you're calling out to Krishna, truly, like Prabhupada said, like a baby crying out to its mom, very humble move, then Krishna's obliged to help you. This is what he says in the Bhagavad Gita, that he reciprocates with us according to our approach, to our desire. So let's all cry out like a baby for our mother to Krishna. Hare Krishna! You know, this is the only way actually to attain Krishna's mercy. You know, in this age we're so fallen. We were hearing yesterday about this chapter 6. We can't do this meditation and pranayama and yoga. We may be able to do these things and they may help a little bit for certain facets, but it's, you know, to attain life's ultimate goal of like controlling our senses, controlling our mind, realizing that we're an eternal spirit soul. There's no other way. We have to take to chanting the Maha Mantra, and one could go on chanting the Maha Mantra for years, for lifetimes, and still not attain the desired goal unless we wholeheartedly call out for Krishna's mercy. Cry. There's no problem in crying for Krishna when you're chanting. Gaur Govinda Swami used to really, really emphasize this. He'd say I believe he'd say that the temple was a crying school, you know, for Krishna. That's the mood that we should learn, to cry for Krishna. And if we can't cry for Krishna, we should cry that we can't cry for Krishna. And if we can't cry because we can't cry for Krishna, then the material energy is going to make us cry sooner or later. So thank you everybody for hearing. Is there any points or comments or doubts, reflections? Yes.
Hare Krishna. Thank you for sharing your nice realizations. I might be all over the place, so I wanted to share a few points, and I had one question. I like how you said, like, internally one can know their eternal rest, and this, and then externally, you know, that they might be acting just kind of like so-called normal. I just was wondering, okay, actually this is my question. So I was wondering, like for myself, I don't know that, but like knowing some of the philosophy and the practice and, you know, wanting to go deeper, sometimes, you know, just like Arjuna, like I want to renounce, like what's the point? And even, you know, being in this world, if I could just, you know, sit here and read all day or chant all day, and then maybe sometimes go out and share a book or two and then come back in my little, like, you know, bubble. I don't know if this is making sense, but I just wanted to know if you could give some like reflections on how does one, like, who has that kind of mindset, like act in the world properly, I guess, if this question makes any sense at all.
Well, Krishna, he talks about in the Bhagavad Gita how one who's on this transcendental platform is like the lotus sitting in the water but untouched by water. So similarly, you can perform a certain duty, a way of living in life, you know, but maintain Krishna consciousness and be unaffected by it, unfazed by it. You know, we have many examples of grihastas, of people who were dealing with material matters. I mean, Lord Nityananda was a grihasta. Bhaktivinoda Thakur, he had so many kids. He was working a job. We hear about Ramananda Roy. You know, he was doing this kind of, I don't even know how you explain it, like minister kind of work, I guess. Like, anyways, so it's one context of talking about, you know, being aware of your eternal sarup, your identity, where it's not something we should really try for separately. By naturally practicing the processes that's given by the acharyas, then a purification will come, and as the purification comes naturally, this will be revealed. If we try to push in that direction and try for that, it's very easy to develop these mentalities of a prakriti sahajya, you know, thinking that I think I'm a gopa, you know, with Krishna, you know, I'm climbing on the deities' heads, kicking them because I'm playing with them on a spontaneous platform, you know, but this is not the case. You know, we have to approach very diligently, but very cautiously, proceed with caution. What's that saying, that fools rush in where angels tread with caution? So, but as one is on that platform, as it starts to reveal itself, it's not that you just shed your identity that you have here in this world. You enact what you're doing here in this world while internally cultivating that mood of the spiritual world. So you're still performing your activities as to not disturb the world and disturb everybody, but internally you're developing this inner mood. So similarly, we can take that down to our scale, where externally I have a certain position to perform, and in the varnashram system, which we're taking shelter of, which the varnashram system is not transcendental. It's just a system in place to help one to come up to the transcendental platform. So, you know, one could be a Mataji Grihasta, and one could be a sannyasi. And externally, it seems, oh, the sannyasi, he's definitely more spiritually enlightened. but that's not necessarily the case. These are just positions that we're using that should help us develop our Krishna consciousness. And, it's up to us to really see what position would be best for us as far as, how to act in the world versus being renounced. If you want to sit and chant, 64 rounds every day and you have the time to do it, do it. Forget the world. That's real life. Sit and chant, That's the whole point why, us being brahmacharis, it's recommended being brahmacharis or sannyas is considered the highest order, is because all time is available so you can hear and chant. So the whole point of life is hearing and chanting. It's not that, you're in this position, you're a grihasta, so you have to get a job, you have to do this and have to bring these things that bring entanglements. No, all these entanglements should be cut to nil as close as possible and save time for more hearing and chanting. So the more that we can hear and chant, the more that we're aligned with life's ultimate goal, and then we're on the path towards perfection, and naturally you won't be attracted to these things, and the idea of these things that bring material attachments and entanglements and cumbersomes, you'll be detested by the thought. You won't want it. But then on the flip side, you can say, okay, I have all this time, I have this inclination to, this faint thing of being renounced and just giving up the world and like really going into Krishna. Okay, let me try to chant 64 rounds for a day. Let me try to chant 64 rounds for a week. Let me try it, like take a vow. Let me do it for 1 month. You'll become humbled real quick. You'll become humbled. And then you'll see, okay, I have many, 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 many limitations. And then by becoming humble, it will help us approach Krishna, in a more of a proper mood. It will help us cry out for Krishna. It will show us where we're really at. So there's nothing wrong with, following that whim of renunciation. With Arjuna, he was trying to leave the battlefield and just escape the problem. And he had a misunderstanding, of what was really going on. So Krishna enlightened him and brought him up to the proper position, but he accepted Krishna as a spiritual master, his guru, and Krishna's instructing him, and Krishna tells him to fight. That's what he was echoing the whole time through the Bhagavad Gita. But he instructed him how to maintain a proper consciousness while doing that. And, in the 3rd chapter, he says about, if you were to leave and not perform your duty, then, what great men do, others will follow. And so one of Arjuna's doubts was that if I leave the battlefield, if I kill everybody, then I'll be a cause of degradation because of various reasons. So what Krishna was actually saying is that, no, if you do not perform your duty, you'll be a cause of degradation. So we are following Srila Prabhupada, who's given us our actual duty. Otherwise, our society, our culture has no duty to perform. We're just mlechas, like animals. So we come to Krishna consciousness. Prabhupada gives us our duty. I was thinking about this earlier. He turns people to brahmanas. And, when one's given a Gayatri mantra or brahmana thread, it's not like, okay, Prabhu, now you're pure. Now you are brahmana. No, you're given something that forces you to rise up to the Brahminical platform, something to adhere to, so you can make advancement to this platform. So it's a few thoughts, but yeah, if you want to become renounced and sit and chant all day and do bhajans, I encourage you. So everybody, thank you for hearing Srimad Bhagavatam. Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai. Shri Gauranatai ki jai. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Anja kapatarubhyas chakripasandibhi vachapatitanam pavanebhi vaishnavebhi namo namaha.